the date?
26th.
We are here at UCLA on August 26th. It's a beautiful day, as usual. And we're about to hear from Monique, who's going to share with us her feelings after seeing her speech, her film.
Hi, I'm Monique.
Hi, Monique.
A great fighter once said, "It ain't about how hard you can hit." Today, I'm going to share a film with you all that really moved me. It gave me joy, it made me cry, and it inspired me. This film was the 1976 film, Rocky. In 2006, Newsweek reviewed this film as a powerful redemption story that encourages audiences to be your own hero. I agree with this statement because throughout the film it emphasizes breaking your own personal barriers. Okay. I know you'll enjoy this film because there's a powerful theme to keep moving forward no matter how the odds are set against you. In summary, it's about a man named Rocky Balboa who, to the surprise of many, gets a shot at the heavyweight championship, although he is an uneducated, small-time fighter. First, this film moved me because it gave me joy. The incidents that gave me joy were the classic and famous montage scenes that we all know today of Rocky training for his big fight. It reminded me of the time when I first learned how to swim. While I was learning how to swim, I was young, scared of drowning, or there being sharks in the water. At one point, I did almost drown from attempting to dive and hitting my head at the bottom of the pool. But luckily, with time and practice, I learned how to swim, and while I was learning, I imagined myself as an Olympic swimmer training for a big meet, with my own personal montage in my head. Watching Rocky, it gave me joy because it reminded me of this time in my youth when learning something new was exciting and how anything can be the beginning of something great. Secondly, this film moved me because it brought me to tears. The scene that brought me to tears was when Rocky was knocked out by his opponent, Apollo Creed, and everyone was begging him to stay down. Rocky himself personifies an underdog who became a winner through sheer will and determination. This scene reminded me of the time when I failed a midterm, my first year here, and I thought to myself, why am I here? Is this path for me? Should I just stay down? In the film, spoiler alert, Rocky got back up. Likewise, I too rose with him and realized I need to stop underestimating myself and get stuff done. The scene made me cry because it reminded me that self-doubt is a thief of happiness. And so, when life knocks you down, you get right back up. Finally, but most importantly, this film inspired me. The scene that inspired me was when Rocky was in his bed talking to his girlfriend and he explained his internal emotions of his upcoming fight. Rocky explained that he didn't care if he won or lost, all he cared about was going the distance. This scene reminded me of a time in high school when I won first place in a cross-country race. And while I was running and dying at the same time, I thought to myself I didn't care about the girls in front of me or the girls behind me. In my head, all I cared about was beating my own personal record. And this thought gave me a burst of energy that I had never had before and led to a personal victory that I still cherish to this day. And so this scene inspired me because it reminded me that your only competition in life is yourself. In short, I have shown you 3 ways this film moved me. It gave me joy, it made me cry, and it inspired me. Whether it's a short monologue or going the distance, there should be no doubt in this room that this film moved me. And so, a great fighter once said, "It ain't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard..." Let me rephrase that. A great fighter named Rocky, the man I was talking about, once said, "It ain't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." When Rocky said this, he wasn't just talking about the hits he took in a boxing match. He was talking about the hits we all take in our everyday lives. And that is how winning is done. Thank you.
Thank you. 412, yes please.
Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa.
Hello,
Hi,
Vanessa.
I really liked how you had a moral at the end of each of your story that tied really nicely into the scenes. So that's really
Thank you, Vanessa.
Hi, I'm Christiana.
Hello,
Hi,
Christiana.
And I thought your speech was really well, but I noticed like sometimes you didn't stand in your power stance. But I mean, you worked like the sides of the room while you were just like standing on one side.
Yeah.
So that's just what I think.
Okay. Your speech was pretty good. You were the big picture was you were stumbled a few times. You were trying too hard to sort of get the exact wording instead of doing it extemporaneously. So get away from that. Say it extemporaneously each time and you'll get it. Practice a little extra time on your opening and closing so you really nail those, because those are your first and last impression, and that's where you don't want to stumble. You want to have this great beginning and a great climax right at the end. Like your film review, and like you to have said that you agreed or disagreed with it, and you had the date. The joy, the swim, we got that. That was well presented, and moral was there. The second one with tears and failing the midterm and do I belong here? We've all had these doubts, and it's you were right. It's the Steve Jobs that we heard in the first class meeting. You get hit in the head with a brick. What do? You lie down and cry, complaining about discrimination or whatever, or do you get back up and keep going, keep it going, right? And you obviously got back up and kept it going, and that was a good moral at the end of that story. Uninspired, I like the cross country, and I like it. Would have put a little more drama in, and then I won the race, but it was good, well done. And you tie back, you just muffled a little. You said have levels of vocal execution of the speech. Stay on track with structure of speech. You don't get distracted, and don't stutter. How to go?
I stuttered. I guess I was focusing on making eye contact with people, but then, okay, not in that way, but like I would get lost in people's eyes and be like, wait, what was I saying? And then, yeah, but not like that, but yeah.
Okay.
The
3 to 5 seconds, and if you practice with a steady buddy with a live person and hold out your arms and practice moving center, right, left, and making that 3 to 5 seconds of contact while you're speaking, you'll get that and do well. Thank you. You did a nice job. Where's my bar? Well, you're tall. Don't back up anymore. I'll back up. Still am losing your head. Give you a second. Okay. Amanda's about to share 3 feelings with us.
Hi everyone, I'm Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
Alan Turing once said, "Sometimes it's the people no one imagines anything of who do the things that no one can imagine." Today I'd like to share with you a film that really moved me, The Imitation Game. It made me feel determined, grateful, and sad. There are some relevant themes in this film that I think you will all enjoy. As put by Scott Foundas in his review for Variety magazine in 2014, this film is undeniably strong in its sense of a bright light burned out too soon, and the often undignified fate of those who dare to chafe at society's established norms. I agree with his statement. If Alan Turing hadn't been held accountable for his sexual preferences, his genius could have been utilized in many other situations. The first way this film moved me was it made me feel determined. The incident in this film that made me feel determined was when, despite people's disbelief in Alan's work, he kept working and eventually solved Enigma, which was the German army's puzzle of where they would attack. The reason this incident made me feel determined was when I was trying to qualify for sectionals in an individual swimming event in high school. I'd wanted to qualify my whole entire high school career, and I hadn't. So it was the last swim meet of the year, league championships, and I was in the final heat of my race. I remember my heart pounding as I got up to get on the blocks, and before the buzzer went off, I just thought to myself, don't let any of those past failures hinder you. Like, you can do this. I remember when I came in and touched the wall and lifted my head out of the water, all I could hear were applauses, and I looked up at the scoreboard to see a qualifying time. I knew that my determination and effort towards this had really paid off. The second way this film moved me was it made me feel grateful. The incident in this film that made me feel grateful was the way that Alan always supported Joan. As a woman in the field of engineering in the 1950s, she did not have an easy time. However, he always supported her and made sure that she was heard. The reason this part of the film made me feel grateful was the fact that I had actually had a really hard time the second quarter of my sophomore year. I had taken a lot of difficult courses, and I knew my grades had suffered. I came home with my report card, really upset, really anxious to my parents, and when I gave it to them, I could see the look of disappointment on their face. Yet they told me that they were confident in my schoolwork and confident that I could continue with my major, and they have supported me ever since. My grades have also been quite a bit better since that quarter, and I can really attribute that to their support. For that, I am forever grateful. The final way this film moved me was it made me feel sad. The incident in this film that made me feel sad was when Alan's group of workers who were working on solving Enigma had to sacrifice one of the British ships in order to see if their solution to Enigma was actually working. The reason this incident made me feel sad was when I remembered having to give up my swimming career for my education. I remember getting the times I needed to get into the college sports and was really excited about what that could have for me. I love sports and I love school, and I didn't want to have to give up one or the other. However, I wanted to get into the sciences, and I knew that personally for myself I could not handle both full-time. So I did end up picking my career and my future in education over my sport, but I realized that this was probably the best decision for me. In summary, I have shown you how this film, The Imitation Game, has moved me. It has made me feel determined, grateful, and sad. There should be no doubt in this room that this film, The Imitation Game, has moved me. When Alan Turing said, "It's the people no one really imagines anything of," he was referring to himself. And although he didn't adhere to the norms of society and the social norms, his work for the British Army changed history of the world forever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Logan.
Hi, Logan.
I really liked your speech because I liked the stories that you tied back to were all pretty personal. I could feel good connection.
Personal stories.
Yeah.
Improvement.
On to me.
Hi, Tiffany.
Yeah, I really like the speech because you have very clear structure and for improvement. I think maybe maybe can have more eye contact with us and some vocal variety.
Okay, those are good suggestions. You can always do more of that. Amanda, gosh, the Turing film, if you haven't seen it, was a great film, and I like that you pulled a quote out of it that was applicable and intriguing and good, and I love quotes to start speeches, and I like the way you tied back to it. Your preview was good. Your SIG statement was good. Variety magazine quote was good, and you said you agreed with the remarks. Nothing. On the main body, your first feeling was your determination, and you talked about and you gave us a really great synopsis of just how very determined you were to get that qualification for your sectionals, and you really made it into a drama, and it was a good storytelling, and you had a moral for it, and so that was your best story. In terms of grateful, and you expressed the gratefulness of your parents that supported you even when you fell a little short, when you took on too heavy of a load. They said they still believed in you, and that was a good story. On your third story, sad, you talked about giving up sport to go into the sciences. I would like you to have returned to the sadness and spend a little more time on the sadness and looking wistfully over to the wooden center at all the people, swimming away or whatever the hell they do over there. And, feeling sad that you aren't part of it or something a little bit more. Summary, conclusion, tie back, we're all good. You said, make 3 swift movements across the room. I don't agree with that. I still think when you watch yourself walk, and I didn't do a very good job of following you. I apologize. I was writing as you moved, but it was still a little jerky. So work on your walking. Make eye contact even across the room, and slow down to avoid stuttering. How to go?
I think I definitely was very clear as far as speaking. And I think I made fairly good eye contact, just not like individually. It's kind of like in the general area, not like focusing on people. So
try focusing on people next time, and give them 3 to 5 seconds, especially people that you want to really lock into and bring them in, and especially if somebody's. And by the way, someone asked me the other day in an email, what do you do when someone looks away? Nothing. Move on. You don't bug-eye them and go, hey, you, come back. So you did a nice job. Thank you. Another volunteer?
Yeah.
Great.
Self-evaluation.
Perfect. Well, you're tall, too.
Am I good right here?
Yeah, but don't come too forward, okay?
Stay around.
Stay toward the back of the green box. Yeah, that'd be good. I don't have a lot of wiggle room here. And Ian's going to share 3 feelings with us.
Hey, I'm Ian.
Hi, Ian.
A wise man once said, feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. Today I want to share with you a film that really moved me. It made me extremely grateful for my good friends, extremely grateful for my mother, and also extremely sad at how quickly life can turn. This film deals with some significant themes I know you'll be interested in because they can get through to you. In 2011, the Rolling Stone called it some kind of miracle, saying that at every point when you expect the film to tumble over into sitcom or soap opera excess, it sides with unvarnished truth. It'll get to you. And I know it definitely got to me. The first way this film moved me was that it made me feel extremely grateful for good friends. The incident in the film that made me feel grateful for good friends was when Adam, the main character, who's also suffering from a rare type of cancer, is going out on the last night he has before surgery with his best friend Kyle. They've been hanging out for some time now. Kyle's kind of been using Adam's whole cancer thing, like, seemingly to his advantage as like a ploy to get girls and just kind of like still kind of have fun with it almost. And Adam, out with Kyle, has to end up taking Kyle home to his house and put him to sleep because he gets too drunk that night. And Adam starts to worry, like, maybe Kyle hadn't treated me the best while I had cancer. And then, while he's in the bathroom after he puts Kyle to sleep, he sees a book sitting there that says Facing Cancer Together, which is like a book for friends of people with cancer. And he flips through it, and it's a big 300-page book that's completely annotated, underlined. Lots of corners, pages are stopped. And it showed Adam how much he meant to Kyle and how much his well-being meant, which really changed it. The reason that this film made me feel grateful for good friends was it reminded me of the first day of school last year when I was getting up in the morning for class. My roommate had already left before me, and I was going to the kitchen to make breakfast and coffee. And in the kitchen, running late, I see our French press coffee maker filled, steeped, ready to rock and roll with coffee in it with a note from my roommate that said, "Make sure you heat this in the microwave before you leave. Have a great first day of school. Love, Max." And that just like, sometimes it's the little things in life, but seeing that your friend took time out of their own life to improve yours can be really powerful. The next way that this film moved me is that it made me feel grateful for my mother as well. The incident in the film that made me feel grateful was when Adam was just about to go into surgery, actually, and he was with his parents. Throughout the entire film, Adam and his mother have had kind of a relationship that's very loving, but also like argumentative at times, and they get into kind of little different arguments throughout that clearly irk each other, but they still look out for each other. When Adam's about to go into surgery, his anesthesia is administered, and then he's just overcome with worry all of a sudden, as anyone would be. And he looks over at his mom, like almost in tears, and just says, "Mom." And she looks him in the eyes and says, "Sweetie, you're going to be just fine." Providing a level of comfort that like no one else in his life really can. The reason that this incident made me feel so grateful for my mother was that it reminds me of my relationship with my mom. Much like Adam's, we have a very loving relationship where we can always kind of count on each other for any things, but of course, like any mother and son, we get into arguments and irk each other all the time. However, if I'm ever in a serious moment of high stress, like because I lost my wallet or because stress from school or I'm about to go into surgery, I know I can always call my mom and count on her, and it's a great feeling. And finally, the last way this movie moved me was that it made me feel extremely sad at how abruptly life can change. The incident in the film that made me sad was when Adam goes into his normal chemotherapy session that he usually does with two older men named Alan and Mitch. He walks in that day to only see Alan, and he says, "Where's Mitch?" And Alan just abruptly responds, "Mitch died last night." And so Adam says, "What? What happened? Like, we were just with him, like, last night." And Mitch just puts his head down. It's just part of life. The reason that this incident made me feel so sad was that it reminded me of being a freshman in high school. When I was at my high school's talent show, I was in the crowd with a kid that was a senior at the time named Jacob, and he was extremely humble, extremely, like, funny actor, great kid. We were watching someone perform and singing along to "Stand By Me" by Benny King, and it was fun. It was great. He's a great kid. I remember waking up that next morning to my mom in my room saying that he had passed away in a car accident that night, and it really, really sucked. I felt the same as Adam in the movie. I was completely baffled and just really sad. It's just odd being like lightheartedly around someone, feeling like totally cool, and then in the next moment realizing you'll never see him again. It's a strange feeling. In summary, I have shown you 3 ways this film moved me. It made me extremely grateful for friends, extremely grateful for my mother, and extremely sad at how quickly life can end. William Ward had it right when he said his quote about gratitude. You need to let the ones who deserve it know, because much like Mitch and Jacob, we don't know how long this life will last. Thank you.
Thank you. 5:29.
It's a long one.
Yeah, long.
Hi everyone, I'm Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
I liked how well structured it was, and every story like really related. I mean, more so than I feel like many of the speeches. They're like almost the exact kind of incident, so that was really cool to see that connection.
Improvement.
Hi, I'm Evelyn.
Hi, Evelyn.
I love your speeches that are well structured, and I think maybe some stress or vocal variety.
Okay, that doesn't hurt any time. Tell us who said the quote in the beginning. You said a famous
William
man.
Arthur Ward.
Ward, right. Writer, author.
Yeah,
Qualify him a little bit. Your setup was fine. We're running late, so I'm just going to jump to the meat of the speech. The big problem with the speech, the reason you went overtime was when you watch yourself tonight on YouTube, you're going to see you spent much too much time on the plot summary that you didn't need. You didn't need the setup. You didn't need all the stuff about the couch and the cancer and all that, facing the cancer in the book. You could have just cut to it. And But the story about your friend helping you out with the coffee, and that was good. And return to the emotion, and I felt so grateful and so happy that this friend did this for me. I was so moved and so touched. On the grateful one, again, long plot summary, and would have liked, if you had a specific thing with your mother, you talked about the wallet, and, but a little bit more of a story in there would have been good. And sad, yeah. You're pretty good emotion there, and you were reliving your sadness you felt. If you could re-feel it a little bit more, I just felt so sad. I teared up. I was really, my mom was holding me, stuff like that. Just bring the sadness back, re-feel it. Felt sensing, so we can feel it too. Your summary, your conclusion, tie back were all great. Your goal is to maintain eye contact with everyone throughout the speech. Move left, right, and center without awkwardness. Use appropriate hand gestures throughout. How'd it go?
I feel like I actually did pretty well. I went over there,
Yeah.
stopped completely, and spoke. I did well with eye contact. I don't think I did that well with moving to the left, honestly.
You weren't that comfortable over there,
I just
huh?
kind of came back to the center.
Yeah. Okay, well, you did a nice job, but for the length. Thank you. What's your full name?
What?
What's your, because I tried to put you down on the roll sheet. There's no Reagan.
My Chinese name.
Yeah, on what UCLA calls you. They don't call you Reagan.
Here's my brewing card.
Your brewing card, yeah, that's what I need. Thank you, Mr. Genley, also known as Reagan. Here. And we're rolling.
Hi, I'm Regan.
Hi, Regan.
As the saying goes, time was, time is, and the time is past. Today I'm going to deliver my speech with the movie, The Interstellar. If you have watched a movie made by Nolan, I'm sure that you will know that cannot be classified into any kind because it's full of humanity and the emotion expressed in the movie is obscure. So at that time, you may have no time to feel your own feelings, just being shocked time by time. But I still have some emotion to share with you. For the movie really moved me. It made me feel shocked, and it made me feel angry. It made me gratified. The movie deals with some significant things that I'm sure you will be interested in. In the movie, the Earth's future has been riddled by disaster, famines, and droughts. The only way to ensure mankind's survival is interstellar traveling. And a planet that has the right environment to sustain human's life has been discovered by NASA. The one way that the movie really inspired me was that it made me feel shocked when Cooper and his group decided to land off a planet with supergravity. As you know, time is merciless. When I was a child, I was not permitted into some equipment of a theme park. I've dreamed about being an adult at that time. I want the time pass quickly. But when I came to my grandfather's funeral, I have expected that time pass more slowly. Lifetime is such a tiny unit when comparing with interstellar traveling. Cooper's life is nearly paused, but Murphy's life is keeping going ceaselessly. But finally, Cooper decided to travel. I think for the man who involved with the event, it is a great calamity. But for audience, I'm really shocked. The second way the movie really moved me was that it made me feel angry when Dr. Mann decided to banish Cooper and his group to a remote planet. When I was a child, in my primary school, I did a great handcraft, and one day my classmate destroyed my handcraft when the teacher asked us to hand in them. I felt angry and sorrow that time because I think my classmate will get no benefit from doing that, but he did that. He just want to he just want to irritate me. I think the same situation appeared on Dr. Mann and Cooper because they came back to the earth together, and it will make no difference to Dr. Mann, but he decided to give up others. That is an evil action. The third way the movie really moved me was that it made me feel gratified when Cooper back from traveling and find his daughter is still alive. Because half years ago I got some problem with my lung, so I have to take a surgical operation. After taking that, I fall into a deep coma, and the doctor asked my parents to wake me up because they want to ensure that the anesthetic is not excessive. After my parents wake me up every half hours, I have consciousness actually, but my visual field is limited and weak. At that time I have thought about that I'm going to die, but finally I recovered with nothing remains but just some painful experience. At that time I feel very peaceful and gratified, and I thought that Cooper has the same emotion with me, but maybe his emotion is more complicated than me because he finds his daughter is alive and she is elder than him. I think the emotion cannot be expressed by anyone because no one has ever experienced that. Okay, in summary, I've already shown you 3 ways that the movie really moved me. For it made me feel shocked, it made me angry, it made me gratified. The 100% reflection of humanity and the 100 sincerity of Nolan. This is Interstellar. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. 504. Rita.
I liked how you kept your head up. You were constantly looking around.
Heads up. Okay, good. All right.
Hello, I'm Linda.
Hi, Linda.
I thought your introduction is a little long, and maybe I can't hear clearly, but I think your third story don't follow the structure, and maybe I'm wrong. And when you finish your personal story, I think you can get back, put some words to bring us back to emotion.
Right. Reagan, let's talk about Interstellar. You started off with the idea that this movie almost defies emotions, right? And so it was pretty hard to talk about. But yet you told us it made you shocked, angry, and gratified. And your significant statement was just okay, but it didn't have a film review in it, as it's supposed to have, that you're supposed to put in there. So let's go to the meat of the speech. When you said you felt shocked, I didn't really get the shock so much. You referred to your grandfather's funeral, and I didn't know if you were shocked by his death or what. But your purpose of the speech, if you watch other speeches, you'll see people are focusing more on their feelings. And you need to focus more on your feelings and less on the plot summary of the movie. See, I felt very shocked when my grandfather died and sad. Relive the emotions so we feel it. We're learning to make an emotional connection with our audience. On anger, same thing. A little boy, you made a nice little handicraft, as you put it, and the boy broke it up. And you were angry, but we didn't really get much of your anger. You went right on after the anger and explained that he had evil psychology or something. There's no benefit to him, but we didn't get your emotion of anger so much expressed, and we need more of your anger. The same with gratified. I agree with Linda. I didn't get the gratification. I know you were happy your parents kept you alive from not staying in the coma. Was that your gratification? That was toward your parents, right? Yeah. So your summary, your conclusion, and your tie back were all okay. Where were your goals? You're supposed to put 3 goals on here. What were your goals?
I think I concerned about finding the relationship between my emotion and the emotion of the characters, but not concerned about my emotions.
Right. Okay, well, you need to work more on connecting your emotions with the film and learning to express them. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, how you doing?
I'm fine. Hi, I'm Candace.
Hi, Candace.
In my opinion, even the most ridiculous film reflects some facts. Fairy tales teach children important qualities for person. Comedies, comedies make people feel happy and free. Science fictions help us develop imagination and creativity. And if you ask me about my favorite type of movie, I think I will tell you it could be anything but love stories. However, today I want to share with you a romance that really moved me, The Notebook. It made me laugh, it made me feel grateful, and also made me cry. The genre is that in summer, a rich girl, Ellie, fell in love with a country boy, Noah, who was poor but smart. Although they had a great time together, soon they were separated because of their social differences. After Noah returned from World War II, they met again, and several decades later, Ellie suffered from dementia, but Noah kept reading their love story from his notebook to her. The first way this film moved me is that it made me laugh. The incident in the film that made me laugh was when Noah first met Ellie in an amusement park. The reason was that in the summer holiday before I went into university, I had a graduation trip with my best friend. We planned our schedule and went to an amusement park too. We tried many frightening rides such as roller coasters, giant swinging ships, and free-fall jobs. When this happened to me, I was truly happy. I had the best time ever, and I really enjoyed the company of my friends. The second way this film moved me was that it made me feel grateful. The incident in the film that made me feel so was when the young couple danced in the middle of the street and hummed. The reason was that it reminds me of my parents. When I was in junior high school, I had no idea what love was. And I even thought that there was no love between my parents because they were always quarreling. But one night, my parents and I sat in the living room and watched TV. Suddenly, my father stood up and walked towards my mom. He invited her to dance with him. At that moment, I was shocked, and my mom was a little bit shy and smiled like a young girl. This was the most romantic thing that I have ever seen between them. When this happened to me, I feel grateful because my parents not only raised me up, but also teach me what true love is in simple and ordinary life. The third way this film moved me was that it made me cry. The incident in the film that made me feel sad was in the end of the story. Ellie became briefly lucid and remembered the story Noah was reading was the story of how they met. But soon she forgot everything again. The reason was that my grandfather had a stroke and had to stay in hospital for several months. His disease caused some damage in the brain, so he lost memory sometimes. But he always asked us where my grandmother was. And when this happened to me, I cried a lot, and I really wish my grandfather could be better soon. In summary, I've shown you 3 ways this movie moved me. It made me laugh, it made me feel grateful, and also made me cry. This film gave me a new and impressive feeling of friendship, love, and affection. There's no doubt in this room that this film, The Notebook, really moved me. Now, I don't think love stories are as dull as I used to suppose. I'm going to love them. Thank you.
Thank you. 415.
Hi, I'm Abraham.
Hi, Abraham.
I really like your speech. I like how you like your stories that you shared. It was really personal. So it was really easy to connect with them because they're also really detailed. So it's good.
I'm Jared.
Hi, Jared.
I think for improvement, maybe slow down a bit. You seem a little bit rushed. So if you just kind of take your time.
Yeah, and I know you wanted to get it. Thank you, Jared. I know you wanted to get it in time, but where you could have cut down is on the plot summary in your significant statement. You really didn't need it. Didn't see the quote from the film review. Did I miss it? Was it in here, or you didn't have it? Okay, you need to remember research, and you'll have that in your final paper of your persuasive speech, right? You know how to do internet research, right? You know how to find stuff on the internet and pull it out? Okay, good. Laugh. Yes, I got the happiness you felt at the amusement park. That was good. That was well communicated emotion. I'm grateful. Your mother and father danced in the living room out of the blue, and that made you very happy and showed you a simple act of love between them. And so that was an interesting and unexpected story. I like that. On your cry story of your grandfather having a stroke and asking for your grandmother, and it made you very sad, I would have mentioned just how sad you were and elaborated a little bit more on the sadness and elaborated more on the emotion. That was your best one. And don't leave it for us to infer that it was a very sad situation. Relive the emotion more. Re-feel it. And we'll feel it too. Your summary, your conclusion, and tieback were fine. We lost a little of the emotional impact because of the zippity-doo-dah pace of your speech. But overall, you did a nice job. Thank you. And thank you for being on time. Okay, I'll have to readjust the camera for you. Yes, there you are. Rock and roll.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Dogs are the most loyal friends of human beings. However, have you ever imagined that if dogs could speak like human beings, what they would say to you? Today, I want to share with you a Japanese film that really moved me, 10 Promises to My Dog. The 10 promises here are written from a dog's point of view. This film made me warm and happy, it made me feel grateful to my parents, and it made me feel ashamed and realize the importance of cherishing. This film deals with some significant themes that I know you will be interested in. The persistence of our love and our responsibilities of our dogs. TV Tokyo Corporation describes this film as a touching film that talks about the love and responsibility between a girl and a dog on its website. I agree with it because this film is all about usual but moving stories. In this way, it makes it easier for the audience to think deeply about their relationships with their pets and even all the animals in the world. The first way that this film moved me was that it made me feel warm and happy when I saw the scene that the heroine, Akari, plays with her pet dog, Socks, happily. The reason was that this incident reminds me of the time I spent with my pet dog in my childhood. I loved playing with it and holding it gently in my hands. It brought happiness to me, and I really missed the time it accompanied me. So I felt warm and happy, and I believe that animals are friends of human beings, so we should treat them with love and respect. The second way that this film moved me was that it made me feel grateful to my parents for their love and support to me. The incident that made me feel grateful to my parents was that Akari's father quit his busy job as a doctor in a famous hospital and set up a private clinic to spend more time with Akari. The reason was that when I saw Akari's father, I came to realize the fact that my parents always cherish the time when we are together. Every time I go back home from my boarding school, they cook delicious meals for me, and they always squeeze time to go shopping, go for a walk, and communicate with me. They don't say I love you directly to me, but I can really feel their endless and lasting love through their actions, so I'm thankful to them. The third way that this film moved me was that it made me feel ashamed and realize the importance of cherishing. The incident that made me feel ashamed was that when Socks is dying, Akari recalls the time she spent with him, and she really regrets that she hasn't fulfilled the 10 promises to him. The reason was that this incident reminds me of my grandfather. Last year, my grandfather passed away. His death made me recall the time I had spent with him. When I was in primary school, he took good care of me, and he always picked me up from the school. I feel ashamed because I've never said I love you to him before. This is a pity, and I have no chance to compensate. What I should do now is to cherish everything I have and everyone I love in order to avoid the similar pities again. In summary, I have shown you the 3 ways that this film moved me. It made me feel warm and happy, it made me feel grateful to my parents, and it made me feel ashamed and realize the importance of cherishing. To conclude, this is a touching film that talks about love and responsibility. There should be no doubt that this film really moved me. Animals are friends of human beings, so those who have pets had better remember the 10 promises to dogs and treat their pets well. And most importantly, we should cherish everything we have and everyone we love. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. 421.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn.
Hi, Jocelyn.
I liked your speech. It was very clear and easy to follow, and they also maintained good eye.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Hi, I'm Ori.
Hi, Ori.
Maybe use a variety in your voice a little bit. You don't have a really good user.
More variety in your voice is always good, and louder, so you have more energy that you put out with your speaking. You started with an observation about dogs and animals, and I thought that was an interesting observation and a universal maxim world round. You chose to talk about 10 promises to my dog, and you chose to say that it made you feel warm and happy, grateful to your parents, and ashamed. So let's see how well you communicated the emotions. And oh, by the way, thank you for having a good quote from TV Tokyo. On the warm and happy, you shared with us how warm and happy you felt playing with your duck. That worked well. On the second way, you shared with us that when you come home from boarding school, your parents treat you really nicely. And even though they never say, I love you, you know they do. On the third emotion about feeling, I guess you felt guilty kind of, right? Yeah, about your grandfather. Yeah, I think that what I would say is the lesson here is not only express it, but speak it. And unlike your parents, don't be afraid to say to people, I love you, because that's something way from the past that you don't say it. You know, you can express it verbally and non-verbally, and not just with actions, but with words. Words sometimes are nice to hear. I'm sure you would like to hear it from your parents, right? Yeah. Your summary, your conclusion, and tie back were all excellent. You said more emotional connection, proper stress, and fluency. How did it go?
I try to have more vocal variety when I express. It made me feel warm and happy, and grateful and ashamed. But I still need to improve that. The fluency, I try to be more familiar with my speech.
Yes.
And I think maybe I could avoid the pauses like
Yes.
and then
The fillers.
yeah.
Okay. Overall, you did a nice job. Thank you. Three pages. Boy. Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm George.
Hi, George.
Yeah. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. This is a quotation from 1984, which is written by George Orwell. The three pairs of words seem to be a contradiction, but in fact, it is a way and a symbol of control and dictatorship. Today I want to share with you a film that really moved me. It is V for Vendetta. It made me excited, it made me inspired, and it puzzled me. The film deals with some significant themes that I know you will be interested in. It tells us a story of terror, dictatorship, revolution, and dictatorship, revolution,
And other things. Just come on. Homosexuals.
Yeah,
Just you're
and
stepping.
some other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're stay in the green box too, please. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
It tells a story about such things, and it is in the year 2020 when the United States have become the world's biggest leper colony. In the meantime, England is just governed by Adam Sutler, who is a dictator and controls the whole country by causing fear and monitoring all the people and blackbacking all their objectives, the heads of all their objectives. And Adam Sutler just forbids heretics, homosexual, and tells all the people strength through unity, unity through faith, and that always England prevails. Who or what will challenge such regime? Not a man, surely, but an idea incarnate. Yeah, the first way this film moved me was that it made me excited. The incident in the film that made me excited was when V was shot and badly injured by the police, but he took the pain and killed all the police with his swords, and finally brought the judgment to Mr. Creedy, which he deserved. And he said, "Beneath this mask, there is more than flesh. Beneath this mask, there is an idea, Mr. Creedy, and ideas are bulletproof." The reason this incident made me excited was this sentence really recalled my appreciation of heroism and stressed the importance and the power of ideas. And it reminded me of China's history, in which ideas and thoughts always play an important role. And when this strikes me, I think I should never forget the power of ideas and the importance of the freedom of expression, which is still not assured in my country. The second way this film moved me was it made me really inspired. The incident in the film that made me inspired was when V told the heroine at the very beginning of the film that people should not be afraid of their government and the government should be afraid of their people. The reason this incident made me inspired because it just reminded me of my junior school years. The private school in which I spent my junior and senior school years was found to have serious corruption and embezzled a large amount of teachers' salaries. To protect the right of our teachers, we went to the downtown and just handed some flyers. But after arriving at the place for half an hour, we were just driven away by armed forces. When this happened to me, I was really frightened and felt the sense of powerlessness. But now I realize the people should learn to protect and to fight for their freedom and their right against the government or the big wigs. Although we are actually pretty weak, but we are being of a large group. The third way that this movie moved me was it made me puzzled. Actually, it is not the incident of the movie that made me puzzled. It is the different evaluation and attitude of Chinese and American to V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta was really famous in China, especially on the internet. The movie channel of China Central Television once played V for Vendetta on television, and it soon became a shock news because V for Vendetta is in a way banned in China because it is considered to include some serious problems of Chinese society. There's a very interesting sentence on the internet that V for Vendetta is a custom-made movie for China from the United States who is pretending to be Britain. However, V for Vendetta really has a big influence on China because it just spreads the ideas that most teenagers of China appreciate, including the freedom of expression, revolution, democracy, and the acceptance of people's variety. In the meantime, as a movie of $15 million, V for Vendetta did not gain enough compliment as it deserved in Western countries. It is criticized for its violence and that V changed the country as in the way of a terrorist. It seems that while Eastern countries care more about the result, Western countries care more about the way and the method. And this may come from citizens' different requests of their country and also the different social system. But however, it just reminds me the next time that I have to evaluate something, it is really necessary to think about it from different views. In summary, I have told you the three ways that this film moved me. It made me excited, inspired, and made me puzzled. And it made me excited and inspired by its words and ideas, and puzzled me by its bipolar evaluation. War is peace, slavery is freedom, and ignorance is strength. Whatever different countries we come from, as long as we consist the pursuit of freedom, we will never hear such sentences in the future. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, that was only 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Quite a bit over the time. Yeah. Okay, let's move quickly. That was 2 speeches. Who's next? Yeah, let's go. Stay.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Your stories are really detailed, and I really love your second stories. It's very cool to do so.
Hi, I'm Angela.
Hi, Angela.
I really love your speech because you look confident, but I think maybe you should pay attention to your movement. You move too much.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, let me do this quickly, George. You pace. You don't walk purposefully. The big problem was this movie was a practice in communicating your emotions. And so those were to be excited, to be inspired, and to be puzzled, I guess. You gave us you were at 1:45 with a plot summary. Where was that ever in the prompt? Where was that ever you were supposed to give that? We didn't need that. You were just supposed to tell us, V for Vendetta, it moved me. Here's the first way. It made me feel excited. And then go right to your emotions, okay? Yeah. So lose all this long, convoluted thing. No one cares. Everyone's seen the movie. So on your first story, that wasn't a personal story. Yeah. So right away we had problems there. On the second story, it was a personal story. You protested the teachers losing their salaries, and the troops came, and you felt impotent, and you sort of went back to your schoolroom empty-handed, right? Yeah. Your third story, your third emotion was puzzled, and again, that was very an intellectual kind of puzzlement, not so much emotional. You gave a long rendition of the differences between China and the U.S. and how it's the two sides are different. Summary, conclusion, and tie back were fine. I like the George Orwell bookends. Overall, I want you to follow the prompt more closely. I want to see you time it. For the final speech, at 4 minutes, I'll have to stop you, because we can't have you do an 8-minute speech. We won't get through everyone. Thank you. Okay, next. Managing attention, she's texting. He's got his computer open, which are against the rules of the class. Communicating respect non-verbally. Finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love. Start your speech.
Hi, I'm Jared.
Hi, Jared.
So there's a school psychology experiment where the subjects sit down. There's a wall here so they can't see their right arm. And in front of them is a prosthetic arm. The experimenters draw feathers on each of the fingers, and then they get a hammer and smash the prosthetic hand. And immediately the subjects recoil, because they already made this mental connection between their real hand and this prosthetic arm. Now, the reason why I share this is because it brings up this idea of empathy. And I want to share with you guys a film that I connected with and really moved me. It's Forrest Gump, and it made me feel accepted, appreciated, and heartbroken. And I know you'll enjoy this film because it deals with a lot of themes that I'm sure you guys can connect with. In the New York Times in 1994, Bernard Weinrub wrote that Forrest Gump is a sweet-natured and quirky film that deals with ideas like commitment, love, and reconciliation. And I totally agree, because it goes through the view of Forrest Gump, who is so pure-hearted, and you just travel with him throughout his life. And so we begin with the first way that this film made me feel, which was accepted. And so in the film, young Forrest Gump is standing in the aisle of the bus because no one wants to sit next to him. And suddenly he hears this girl named Jenny say, "You can sit next to me." And this made me feel accepted because it reminds me of my first day volunteering at Ronald Reagan Hospital. I felt so out of place, so awkward. I was just standing by myself, not sure what to do. And all of a sudden, this male nurse came over, kind of took me under his wing, and allowed me to shadow him for the entire day. And in doing so, I felt like I belonged in the hospital. I felt like I could actually be of assistance to others. I got to give water to people, run errands for the nurse. It just felt good that I felt like this is something that I can, be a part of. Now, the second way that this movie made me feel is it made me feel appreciated. And this is when Forrest Gump receives a thank you from Lieutenant Dan for saving his life in the Vietnam War. This made me feel appreciated because There's this homeless man in Westwood who I've been helping out for about 2 years. One time, I bought him some peanuts, which were the wrong brand that he wanted. So he starts yelling at me, he's cussing at me, saying horrible things. But he kind of calms down, and he remembers all that I've done for him. I've given him money, food, clothes, blankets, car rides to motels. And he just kind of looks at me and genuinely thanks me for that. And you know, it felt so good to receive this gratitude because it meant that my acts of kindness were actually affecting him. It was kind of getting through to him, to his heart. And so it felt good that I was being appreciated in that moment. Now the last way that this movie moved me was it made me feel heartbroken. And the scene is when Jenny, the love of Forrest's life, tells him that she loves him, that he would make a great husband. But then in the next morning, she just runs out the door, leaves him, totally abandons him. And it made me feel heartbroken because something similar happened to me. In my sophomore year of high school, I was head over heels for this one girl. She was totally out of my league. She was super cute, and we had been talking for a while. We kind of exchanged communication in that we both liked each other, and so things were going well. 2 weeks later, though, I get a text from her, and she tells me that she's dating one of my best friends. And so sophomore Jared is like on the ground, crying, groveling on the floor, thinking the world's gonna end. But in reality, it hurt. There was a lot of heartbreak. I realized I couldn't love this girl the same way that I had before. I couldn't care for her. I couldn't laugh with her. I couldn't talk to her the way that I wanted to. And it really felt like I lost a part of myself. I lost something special to me. And so in summary, I've shared with you 3 ways that this movie moved me. It made me feel accepted, appreciated, and heartbroken. And so there shouldn't be any doubt in this room that this movie really did move me. And again, similar to the experiment that I shared earlier, human nature naturally connects with other people. We empathize, we feel, which is why a good movie like Forrest Gump will help you relive a lot of these emotions, and it will cause you to be in more touch with yourself. So go watch it today. You won't regret it. Thank you.
Thank you, 442.
I love your speech, especially your personal story. I think it was more emotional and really break our heart, and I think it's a perfect speech.
Yeah, very personal, right to the point.
Hi, I'm Monique.
Hi, Monique.
I enjoyed your speech. I love your energy. I guess my only criticism was your second story, I believe, the homeless man. My only criticism is you have shared with us that story before, and I'm not sure what, you started off with the same story you did about the peanuts and him getting mad, but then you switched it into you realizing the things that he gives you. I don't know, it was just kind of...
Deja vu all over again.
Okay,
fair enough. That's
cool.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to, show the same story to the audience again. They heard it. Okay, that's fair. Good, thank you. Let me give you some quick comments. Gosh, I like how succinct you were. I want you all to notice. I wasn't really particularly thrilled with the smashing prosthetic hands, but it was interesting. I was expecting you to go back to the smashing of the hands, since that was the most vivid of the image that I saw in your intro, but you were after empathy. So that was fine. I don't know where you got that, where that came out of left field to me, but whatever, it was fine. It worked. You worked nicely, a very short and sweet quote from the New York Times. You had the date. It was nice. There was no film summary. There was a very short, Jenny asked for us, doo-doo-doo. 1 sentence for the film summary, and then that freed you up to spend more time on your story and your emotion. Same with the second way. Lieutenant Dan thanked Forrest for saving his life. That's all you needed. Then you had time to talk about your redundant, yes, I grant that, peanut story. Finally, the love of your life, the unrequited love, da-da-da-da. You made a little joke of it, but we could tell that you were hurt, and you communicated that and refelt that well, and that was well done. Summary, conclusion, tie back, we're all done. Well, word economy, maintain a dynamic voice, focus on emotions more than the story details. Yes, that's what I've been after for people to do. How'd it go?
Well, I think my last speech, on my third point, my voice went a lot softer, so I tried to maintain that type of volume.
Energy. Did a nice job, Jared. Thank you. Okay, next. Alright, I've got to adjust the camera. So I need to turn around and check to see that everyone's looking up. Communicating, respect non-verbally, finding friendly eyes near the front and center. Say your name, feel the love.
Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa.
Walt Disney once said, animation can explain whatever the mind of man can conceive. And our minds are capable of being the triggering point for lots of emotions. And with this, animation can not only explain these emotions, but can really make us feel these emotions. Today, I would like to share a film that really moved me. This film is Pixar's animated Up. This film made me feel sorrow, joy, and sadness. Although this film is about an old man traveling to South America with a little boy on a house tied to balloons, seems like it would only be fun for young children. In 2010, the Las Vegas Examiner said, Up is never anything less than incredibly touching and extremely entertaining for all audiences. And I completely agree with this because even though it's an animated film, I feel that we could all relate to it to some level. And this film has a lot of significant themes that I know you will be interested in. This film talks about the importance of intimate relationship and how real adventure is found in everyday life. So first, I would like to tell you how this film made me feel sorrow. The incident in the film that made me feel sorrow was the very beginning. There's a montage of Carl and his wife Ellie and the happy moments that they shared together. But we soon learn that Carl's wife has actually passed away, and we see that he's turned into this grumpy old man that's just alone, and he feels completely just depressed to be alone in his life. And the reason this made me feel sorrow, because it reminded me of the time my grandmother came to visit me from Mexico a year after my grandfather passed away. She used to be very happy and joyful, always playing with her grandchildren, but this time something was different. She would no longer smile, and she just had a really sad look in her face. And I remember there was one day where I went up to her and I was trying to tell her a joke, and she just kind of looked at me and she was like, "Not right now, mija." And I just felt completely heartbroken because I was trying to cheer her up. I know she had been through a tough time. And at that moment, I felt like I lost two grandparents, not just one, because she was no longer her old self. So in this moment, I felt complete sorrow, the same way that Carl felt after he lost Ellie.
Good.
So the second way this film moved me was that it made me feel joy. And the part that made me feel joy was when Carl finally makes it to South America and he's looking upon Paradise Ball. And he's just so happy because he's always dreamt of being here with his wife Ellie, and he had finally made it. And the reason this made me feel joy, because it reminded me of the time I traveled 4 hours to visit my cousin who was in labor. She texted me early that day and told me she was in labor, and I immediately got on the bus, then on the metro, then I walked a couple hours. And when I finally got there, I walked to her room and I opened the door, and her baby had just been born. He was laying right there, covered in blood and crying. And in that moment, I just got teared eyes, but it wasn't sadness, it was just complete joy, because in that moment I got to see miracle in life right in front of me, and I just didn't expect that. And so at that moment I felt the same joy that Carl felt looking out at Paradise Falls. And the last way that this film moved me was that it made me feel sad. And there's a moment where Russell, the young Boy Scout, tells Carl that he doesn't know how to pitch a tent. And then Carl tells him, like, oh, didn't your dad ever teach you? And at that moment, Russell just gets really sad, and he says, my dad was never really around. And the reason this made me feel sad was because it reminded me of my young childhood. My dad worked far away, so he was always out of state, and it would be months on end before he came home. And I remember working really hard during school to make all A's, because then you get invited to an honors dinner. And I was like, oh, I'm going to invite him, and he's going to come. But sadly, he couldn't be there that day. So when they were announcing our names, I just looked at an empty chair, and I just felt so sad because he couldn't be there for the happy moments in my life, the same way that Russell's dad couldn't be there for him. So in summary, I have told you guys how this film moved me. It made me feel complete and utter sorrow and joy and sadness. And there should be no doubt in this room that this film really moved me. And Walt Disney was right. Animation is able to show us what our minds conceive. And this is especially true when it comes to emotion. Thank you.
Thank you. 428.
Hello, I'm Regan.
Hi, Reagan.
The movie you present is, I'm never familiar to the movie you present, but I think the movie is not so sad as you said, but I think your delivery is emotional. Yeah.
Yeah. He communicated emotions and made an emotional connection with our movie. Yeah, Up is, the title is supposed to be uplifting, right? Yes, please. Hi, Sierra.
I don't know what to say about your speech. It was really great, but I think one thing I could think of is that in the beginning, when you were just, going through your list of things you had to say, you weren't really making eye contact like you were when you're giving us emotional stories. So just maybe tell it to us more rather than just saying it like.
That's a good point. Vanessa, I really liked your speech. Ironic to use Walt Disney for a Pixar movie, but hey, that's cool.
But they're together.
Mixing genres, huh? Yeah, that's cool. Really well done. Sig's statement perfect. Yes, it is for everybody, and don't be ashamed to do The Lion King or Up or any other child's movie, whatever. They're often universal in their themes, and they speak to a lot of people on a lot of levels. That's the power and beauty of art. Well, on your main body, sorrow, yeah. I felt your sorrow at your grandmother losing her maid and her pushing you off and not being able to listen to your joke, and you relived the sorrow you felt when she pushed you away, and I felt that, and that was good. On your joy, you told the story of your joy in a nice chronological fashion. There was a running, you had to catch a bus, a subway, you had to walk 5 miles, through the snow or whatever, and after there you arrived, and out popped the baby blood and all, and it was a great visual, and you then expressed the joy that you felt at being present for that moment. Your strongest and best emotion you communicated was your sadness, which you communicated quite well. I want you to all notice something that happened, and it's what happened when Vanessa started to talk about her dad not being there for her honors dinner. She started to tear up a little. Did you notice that? But she kept going. And that's what I call walking the razor's edge. It's halfway between emotion and rationality. You don't fall off one side of it. It's hard to walk on the edge of a razor, right? It's very thin, very narrow. It's very hard to walk the razor's edge between rationality and emotionality. But you walk the razor's edge perfectly. You didn't fall into emotionality and start crying and run off the stage. You didn't repress it like some of the students in here say, oh yes, I felt sad. On we go, and give us nothing. But you felt it, and you teared up a little, but you kept it going. And that's the perfect way to handle it, walking the razor's edge. Your summary or conclusion and tieback were good. You want to walk more naturally when transitioning. Oh, you're out of focus. Okay. Emphasize each emotion that you will talk about by changing tone. Make eye contact throughout the room. How did it go?
I think making the eye contact was the hardest at the beginning, just because I was trying to just remember everything I had to say, so I was just kind of quickly glancing over. I think I did a good job just emphasizing the emotions. I really wanted to make sure that you guys got that, and so I also walked how I was supposed to. I think I don't know if it looked awkward or not.
So you did a nice job. Work on the eye contact. That make it 3 to 5 seconds, but you did a nice job. Thank you. Okay, time to change the camera while the next person's coming up.